Excellent.
Hey, thanks for tuning into the Rexel Show. Today we take a look at this Superman arcade I picked up. My CRT repair guy had this. He asked me if I was interested. I said sure. He said it runs great. The CRT's in great shape, but there's only one problem. It's painted brown. I said, oh, that's okay. I can fix it. But let's take a look at what I got myself into with this complete refurbish of this Superman arcade. So here's the original picture, and you see it's painted brown, and I kept wondering, why is this thing painted brown? Well, as I start to investigate a little bit about Superman arcade, some of the pieces of the puzzle started to come together. Number one, the coin door was a Bally's Midway, and I knew something was wrong with that because obviously it's a Tato machine. It shouldn't have a Bally's Midway coin door. And then I also remember on the back, the identification tag was kind of scratched off. So it gave a red flag that, wait a second, maybe this isn't an original Superman. So now I do some investigation online and bring up some pictures and find that this is the original style Superman. I did look at some other pictures and coincidentally came across this one. It does have some odd white T-molding, but it's the exact same cabinet style as mine. But I did not find anything where they put Superman into two different cabinet styles originally. So then I started taking some of the things apart and noticed that there was blue paint under the gold paint, which maybe meant it was Superman. They converted to something else and then back to a Superman. The good news was I was able to salvage the marquee as well as the original control panel that appears to be the original at least. Now, another odd thing about the control panel was this black bracket that they had attached to it to kind of cover the gap between the control panel and the monitor. It obviously was another red flag, and as you'll see in pictures, it kind of covers up some of the graphical art on the control panel, but it was necessary to make it look like a smooth transition between the control panel and the monitor bezel. Now, the finished product looks like this, but I'm not going to go over step by step on what I did to get it to this point. I will go over some of the minor details, but I didn't record myself working on this over an extended period of time, and I didn't want to do all the legwork that comes with editing that footage as well. So let's take a look at a little bit of this arcade machine as well as some of the arcade gameplay. Now, the first thing I had to do was redo the whole bezel. I redid the plexiglass, cut it out. I also redid the artwork for the normal bezel. I had to adjust it slightly in Photoshop to get it to be the right size around the monitor. I also replaced the buttons with competition buttons, and I did do some work on the joysticks, which I'll explain shortly. I re-laminated almost every piece of this arcade machine, including the front, and then I repainted the coin door as well. Now, inside the coin door, after a ton of adjustments and fiddling, and cleaning, I could still only get one of the coin mechs to work, so I bought an Imonex coin mech that you see right there. I'll leave a link in the description for those. They are fantastic, actually. Now, I also laminated almost all of this cabinet in black. I prefer laminate over painting, and I'll leave a link to a video I did on how to laminate your arcades. I also put nice new red T-molding on here, and the graphics I got done by On Grafix. They do a great job at a reasonable price, so reach out to them. I'll leave a link to them in the description below. Also, I moved the power switch. They had it in a weird position inside the cabinet that was hard to get at, so I moved it to the top. You can see again here how great of a job On Grafix did. Love the blue. It kind of reminds you of Miss Pac-Man. It's just a beautiful color. Now, the circles here on these bolts, I wanted to make a point of this because when you laminate or put graphics over an arcade where bolts are going through the outside of the cabinet, you're going to have to remove those bolts first and then put the laminate on, drill holes through the laminate, then put the graphics on, and then put your bolts in. It was kind of a tedious task, and what I had to do was lay the cabinet on its side, take the bolts out, and then apply the laminate and the graphics on top, and then put the bolts back through. Now, the bolts are to hold the monitor frame in place, and there were also 4 bolts that held the power supply in place that had to be removed before laminating and putting the graphics on. Okay, so now let's take a look at some of the adjustments I had to do on the control panel. Now on the control panel, I was actually able to use the same sticks that came with the arcade, but not the housing. The housings were shot, and I did replace the buttons with competition buttons. But let's take a look at underneath, and I'll show you how I did that. I used HAP Ultimate joysticks and just replaced the joystick with the originals because they were the same diameter as a HAP Ultimate. Now I did have to modify the spacing cylinder inside the joystick in order to get it to work properly. I also had to do some work on the daisy chaining and the wiring, but you'll notice I did use some cherry micro switches, and I was able to salvage a couple of the micro switches that came with the unit. So now with that all done, what do you say we drop some quarters in there and we take a look at the gameplay. Now the camera footage here doesn't do the CRT justice. It's just too hard to get good footage. But if you haven't played Superman before, basically the game is a side-scrolling beat-em-up. I like it because it's co-op and fun to play with another person. You can go through, pick up objects, throw them, get some power-ups. You can kick, you can punch, and you can also do a super punch. And then it moves to, like I said, a vertical scrolling beat 'em up. And this one is going up. You also have a vertical going down, and then there's a side scrolling where they're flying and shooting lasers with their eyes and attacking objects that way. Now, one quick note before we wrap up is you may be thinking that the red character is Shazam, but technically it's just a red Superman. I wish it was Shazam and had some different moves or powers, but no, it's just another Superman. All in all, the gameplay is pretty good, but I think what really attracts me to this arcade is the colors and how it stands out, and the iconic figure of Superman, not only in the movies, but in comics, Justice League. It just really, to me, adds some value, some nostalgia. And hey, who doesn't like Superman, the greatest superhero of all time? But hey, thanks for watching the Rexer Show. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll help you with any arcade repairs or any help you need on any of your projects. Thanks again, everyone.